Elsewhere, the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation kicked off in Beijing, China today with a new grant of $60 billion in loans to African countries. Among the African leaders attending the summit is President Uhuru Kenyatta, who will be seeking additional Chinese funding for the final stretch of the standard gauge railway from Naivasha to Kisumu. KTN's political affairs reporter Muremi Mwangi is in Beijing, China for us tonight and has the details.
The Kenyan hunt for deeper diplomatic, economic and bilateral ties in the East, as President Uhuru Kenyatta joined over 50 African heads of state for the 6th Forum on China-Africa Cooperation.
I will put more emphasis on the environment and the resources. This way, more favorable conditions will be fostered for long-term and sustainable development.
The Chinese direct investment in Africa currently stands at $170 billion. The continent's investment in the South Asian economic giant has, however, remained low, currently standing at only $10 billion. A trade imbalance, analysts argue, needs to be addressed through radical shift in the China-Africa cooperation. In Kenya, construction of the 150 billion shilling standard gauge railway extension from Nairobi to Naivasha is ongoing, with the Kenyan delegation seeking an additional 350 billion for the third stretch from Naivasha to Kisumu. There has, however, been growing concern over Kenya's growing public debt, which in this financial year's budget gobbled up more than a half of the country's domestic revenue.
It's important that Africa seizes the opportunity and doesn't lose this opportunity like it lost before.
The framework of deepening intra-Africa trade, improving infrastructure on the continent, and deepening, the drivers, improving the drivers that can enable Africa realize its prosperity.
Thank you. Kenyatta attended the Beijing summit after the State House meeting with British Prime Minister Theresa May, only a few days after the White House visit that saw Kenyatta hold bilateral talks with US President Donald Trump in what observers view as a spirited search for funding to actualize his 4 legacy pillars. Now, while the promise of $60 billion in loans could appear as a sigh of relief to African countries still struggling with widening budget deficits, a further review of the engagement could be necessary in the future to deal with the trade imbalance that continues to favor China over the continent. Muremi Mwangi, KTN News, Beijing, China.